Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Australian state of Queensland say that a 25-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he was allegedly responsible for causing a fatal crash that took the lives of 3 people, including a Good Samaritan who police say was trying to help one of the other victims. According to reports, the terrifying incident began at around 3:30 a.m. on July 21st, when a man named Terry Bishop was driving south down the Bruce Highway towards the Sunshine Coast. The 65-year-old had left his home in the city of Mackay earlier the previous day and was supposed to be coming into the area to attend a wedding, when something caught his attention just south of exit 244 near the town of Federal. It was a woman standing at the side of the road in an obvious state of distress. She would later be identified as 25-year-old Gypsy Satterley. Concerned for Gypsy's safety, Terry pulled over and asked her if she needed help. She ended up getting into his vehicle and they began driving off. Unbeknownst to Terry, however, Gypsy had just gotten out of another vehicle being driven by her boyfriend, 25-year-old Rolf Rafferty. Rafferty was driving a white Isuzu 4x4 SUV that he had allegedly stolen the day before. Almost immediately after Terry and Gypsy started driving, Rafferty began pursuing them, initiating a terrifying chase. The 25-year-old allegedly drove extremely recklessly, ramming them multiple times, and at one point, causing Terry's vehicle to spin around. In a desperate attempt to escape, Terry began driving the wrong way in the southbound lanes of the highway, though Rafferty reportedly refused to give up the pursuit. He continued trying to run them off the road until all of them collided with a third vehicle being driven by 38-year-old alpaca farmer Jessica Townley. The resulting crash completely destroyed all of the vehicles involved. Sadly, Terry, Gypsy, and Jessica were all pronounced dead at the scene. Rafferty, meanwhile, was taken to a local hospital to be treated for head injuries. The 25-year-old is now facing 3 charges of murder, with Gypsy Satterley's being considered a domestic violence-related offense. At the time of this recording, it's unclear what transpired between her and Rafferty that caused her to get out of the stolen Isuzu prior to the fatal accident. It's said that Gypsy and Rafferty had only been dating for about a month at the time of the incident. The situation is still under investigation. Authorities in the Indian state of Karnataka say that they have arrested and charged a young couple this week after police say they were part of a gang of criminals who faked an accident in order to hijack a truck full of produce. According to reports, the case began on July 8th when the victim, a farmer from Chikkajala district named Malesh, was driving his truck through the village of Chikkajala. He was on his way to sell his crops, a load that consisted of 2.5 metric tons of tomatoes, when out of nowhere, he was intercepted by a group of strangers. After claiming that Malesh had bumped their car, they demanded that he pay them for damages. However, this was apparently just a ruse to distract the farmer. What they really wanted were his tomatoes. After being attacked and forced to transfer some money online, Malesh was pushed from the vehicle by the criminals, who promptly took off with the truck full of produce. Now, if you're wondering why anyone would want a truck full of tomatoes, you're not alone. We were a little confused too. That was, until we started reading more about the ongoing extreme weather issues in India this season. A brutal combination of scorching heat waves and flash floods across the country have reportedly wreaked havoc on several different crops, but tomatoes have been hit especially hard. This has caused extreme shortages in many places, with even corporate giants like McDonald's announcing that they would no longer be serving them on their menu. In places where tomatoes are available, reports state that prices have skyrocketed more than 400%. In the most extreme cases, farmers and shops have apparently hired armed bodyguards to protect their crops. Perhaps unsurprisingly, therefore, police say that after the 2.5-ton heist, the gang of thieves took the tomatoes to a market in the neighboring state of Tamil Nadu, where they sold them. Unfortunately for them, this was also their downfall, as it was here that they were captured by CCTV cameras, leading to their identification. So far, investigators say that they have arrested a married couple identified as 28-year-old Baksar and 26-year-old Sinduja in connection with the crime. They are now facing kidnapping and robbery charges, while authorities say that they are still searching for the couple's 3 accomplices. Authorities in the Argentine capital of Buenos Aires say that a man is facing murder charges this week after he allegedly carried out a terrifying fatal knife attack on his ex-wife at the shopping center where they both worked. The incident took place on July 25th at the Loei Plaza shopping center in the Buenos Aires suburb of Villa Uruguando. The victim, 41-year-old Nancy Yanina Gata, arrived at her usual time that morning at the appliances company where she worked, which was located on the 3rd floor of the complex. However, when she did, she was intercepted in one of the corridors by her ex-husband, 37-year-old Jose Castillo Corvalán. According to reports, though Nancy and her ex both worked at the shopping center, he wasn't supposed to be able to come anywhere near her. They had separated 3 months earlier, and she had a restraining order against him after a series of domestic violence-related incidents. While Corvalán had been allowed to keep his job as a maintenance worker at the complex, Nancy's company had also taken the additional step of changing her schedule in an attempt to avoid her and her ex-husband crossing paths. Disturbingly, after showing up and cornering Nancy that morning, investigators say that Corvalán dragged her into a nearby bathroom, where he stabbed her at least 22 times. After she was dead, the 37-year-old reportedly broke the locks to a door that allowed him access to a rooftop terrace at the building. He was allegedly planning to take his own life by jumping, though before he could go through with it, police arrived and placed him under arrest. At the time of this recording, Corvalán remains in custody and has been charged with murder. Authorities in the English county of Bedfordshire released a major update in a more than 40-year-old cold case murder investigation this week, announcing that after all this time, they had finally charged 2 suspects in connection with the case. The case began all the way back on August 13, 1981, when the body of 36-year-old shopkeeper Carol Morgan was found at the store she owned in the town of Linslade. It was determined that she had been killed by repeated blows from a sharp and heavy instrument, and though arrests were made, charges were never filed. The same thing happened when the case was reopened in 2018. About a year into a re-examination of the unsolved case, a pair of suspects were arrested, but eventually they were released. That all changed this week, however, when after more than 4 decades, the first charges ever in connection with Carol's death were filed. Those charges are reportedly conspiracy to commit murder and have been levied against 73-year-old Alan Morgan and 74-year-old Margaret Morgan. Alan Morgan is said to be the victim's former husband. While this week's update is certainly promising, unfortunately almost no other information has been released at this time. Police have not commented on a motive behind the crime, and all they've said regarding the breakthrough that led them to the charges is that they came after detectives were able to explore investigative opportunities not available to them at the time of the murder. The situation is still developing. Authorities in Thailand's Loei province say that a man is facing attempted murder charges this week after he carried out a terrifying knife attack against a bank manager when he was informed that his account did not contain millions of dollars. According to reports, the whole thing began on the morning of July 24th, when the suspect, identified only as a 64-year-old man named Surasak, walked into a branch of the Bank of Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperatives. After asking to speak with the manager, he informed the man that he was there to make a withdrawal. The amount? 1 billion baht, or roughly $30 million US. While this request would have no doubt raised eyebrows on its own, things got even stranger when Surasak handed over a notebook as proof that someone had transferred the funds to his account. When the manager looked at it, he quickly realized that it was not a bank book, it was just a regular notebook. Evidently deciding to at least go through the motions to humor the 64-year-old, The manager reportedly brought up the account information that they had for him on record. It turned out that his actual balance was the equivalent of about 99 cents. When Surasak was informed about this discrepancy, he did not take it well. He apparently refused to believe that he was not a multimillionaire and began screaming at the manager before being removed by a security guard. Unfortunately, a little while later, no one noticed when Surasak slipped back inside the bank. When he did, he made a beeline for the manager's office before attacking him with a knife. The manager suffered defensive wounds to his hands and needed to be hospitalized, though thankfully, security guards were able to intervene in time to save his life. At the time of this recording, Surasak remains in police custody and has been charged with attempted murder. According to some witnesses, he may have been suffering from some kind of mental health crisis at the time of the attack. Authorities in Japan's Aichi prefecture say that a local woman may have found a way to beat the heat this week. However, she likely won't be able to beat the rap after she offered a novel excuse in connection with an alleged theft. According to reports, the incident took place on the morning of July 16th, when a local convenience store in the city of Ama was in the middle of receiving a frozen food shipment. As the business's order was being loaded into the store, one of the employees, a 21-year-old man, noticed something strange outside. It was a 56-year-old woman who appeared to be in the process of rummaging through the back of the delivery truck. It turned out that she was stealing a bunch of ice cream bars. Unfortunately for the clerk, when he went to confront the 56-year-old, he found out that she wasn't messing around. She was willing to put up a fight for that ice cream and ended up biting his hand during a subsequent struggle. The 21-year-old was left with cuts to several of his fingers, though apparently managed to restrain the woman long enough so that police could arrive. During an interview following her arrest, the 56-year-old explained that she had tried to steal the ice cream because it was too hot outside. Despite her somewhat understandable motives, I mean, who doesn't love ice cream, the whole stealing and biting part was obviously a no-go for police. The woman has since been charged with attempted theft and assault. Authorities in the Mexican state of Sinaloa say that they are investigating an equally strange and stomach-churning case after a business owner found themselves on the receiving end of a rather unusual apparent intimidation tactic. According to reports, it all started earlier this month when the owner of a local flower shop in the city of Los Mochis arrived at her business and found an unusual surprise. Leaning up against one of the store's exterior walls was a mysterious box, which had been left ominously placed alongside a floral wreath normally associated with funerals. Given the unsettling nature of the items, the business owner contacted local police, who in turn wrangled up the bomb squad. However, they were soon able to conclude that there were no explosives inside. So, what was in the box? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow's head. Though, judging by recent court decisions, if it was, Kevin Spacey would probably still get away with it. No, what was in the box was somehow far, far stranger. Yeah, it was a dick. Yep, a severed human penis. Now, you're probably asking yourself, who sent the penis? Why? And perhaps most importantly of all, who did it belong to? Well, that's pretty much what police would like to know as well. While there was a note included with the severed appendage, it didn't offer a whole lot. All it said was, quote, "The reflection of your actions, so you can educate yourself and get off my balls." Though the note definitely seems to imply that whatever message the writer was trying to send was personal, authorities say that they are still trying to discern the exact meaning and intention behind it. They are still trying to get to the bottom of it, though, as it's entirely possible the penis in question wasn't given willingly, and also, apparently, this isn't the first weird thing that has been left outside of this particular flower shop. Among other things, the owner says that she found several ominous mannequins that, like the funeral wreath, were also death-themed. At the time of this recording, though, the situation remains a mystery. Police in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand have released a somber update in the disappearance of a local real estate agent, announcing that after more than a week, they have upgraded their investigation from a kidnapping to a homicide. The case began on the afternoon of July 19th, when 44-year-old Yanfei Bao was reported missing by her husband, Paul. He became concerned after she failed to pick up their 9-year-old daughter from her after-school program, and numerous attempts to reach her were unsuccessful. After launching an investigation, police learned that on the morning of her disappearance, Yanfei had been out knocking on doors in and around the suburb of Wigram, trying to develop leads for new business. The last confirmed sighting of her was at around 10:30 a.m., when she was seen on Vickery's Road. Roughly 45 minutes later, Yanfei spoke to a friend named Jin Tian over WeChat. The conversation was brief, but Jin told police that the 44-year-old sounded totally normal. During the call, Yanfei reportedly wanted to know how someone she was working with could transfer a sum of money equating to about $370,000 US from China in order to pay for a house in cash. At 12:30 p.m., Yanfei's car, a silver Nissan Dualis, was seen parked at an address for sale on Trevor Street in the adjacent suburb of Hornby. The 44-year-old apparently wasn't in the car at this point, and as far as we currently know, the vehicle wasn't seen again until it was found abandoned by police in Wigram more than 10 hours later, by which time Yanfei had been reported missing. 2 days into the search, police released more disturbing information, stating that they had found one of Yanfei's cell phones on the side of the southern motorway, about 4 miles from where she was last seen. Shortly after, they announced that they were searching several properties in connection with the case, including the Trevor Street address where her car was seen. On July 23rd, detectives released another major update, saying that they had made an arrest in connection with the case. The suspect, identified only as a 52-year-old man, was taken into custody at the Christchurch International Airport. At the time, he had reportedly purchased a one-way ticket to China and had no luggage with him. He has now been charged with kidnapping, though authorities say that additional charges could follow. Currently, little information has been released about what led to the suspect's arrest, though we do know that his car, a silver Mitsubishi sedan, was earlier seized by police and had also been seen at the Trevor Street address in Hornby on the same day as Yanfei's disappearance. While reports state that Yanfei's family had been holding out for her safe return, sadly it appears that detectives now fear the worst. After announcing this week that the case had been upgraded to a homicide investigation, they also revealed that they are significantly ramping up their search effort, focusing specifically on waterways such as Lake Ellesmere and the Halswell River. Police are also asking for any members of the public who might have information about the case to please come forward. They are particularly interested in anyone who might have seen the suspect's Mitsubishi sedan on July 19th, which they believe may have traveled through several suburbs in and around Christchurch. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.